we've got people from Holly. This is going to be fun. We've got people from all over the country. We've got people from Illinois. We've got people from Arizona. We've got Susan and Eric. And Susan and Eric haven't missed anything. Thank you guys so much for coming once again. This is really fun. Mark and Karen Friedman, once again, it's good to see you guys. And Justin, man, you haven't missed one either. And my father-in-law, Jim. Jim, I understand that you got a little surprise. My wife sent you a little gift of some chocolates and some wine. I hope you're enjoying it. And with that, we're going to have a lot of fun. This is about having fun. So, cheers. So you brought chocolate. We brought wine, of course. And what's the wine in our glass?
Oh my God, it's the most delicious Viognier. I confess I stole a sip a little bit early. And it is everything I love about Viognier. It's absolutely gorgeous. It just blooms in the glass. It has so much beautiful fruit and a floral element, but it's soft and it's not overly grippy with its acidity and alcohol either. So it's gorgeous. It's very beautifully balanced. It's a voluptuous Viognier.
I hope somebody's recording this because we have to teach John Charles how to use those terms too. So I hope that somebody's recording this. This is fun. It's great to have a great chef and a chocolatier describe wines, because many times we have wine people to describe wines and they become very technical. This is really about flavor and taste and every day, because everybody has those taste buds. So I appreciate your sense and your thoughtfulness in this. One of the things we want to make sure, and my understanding is there's several people out there who got started even before we did. We only started a minute or two ago with drinking our wine, but some of these people have had a bottle open for the last hour or two. And some of them get started early. We love that because we live by depletions.
Yeah.
And depletions
is when people more, right? Some of them are allocated though,
they're highly allocated, but when people drink it, then they get more. So that's a really good thing. So the earlier they want to start, the better we are.
I feel that way about chocolate too.
Well, we have chocolate surrounding us from every level. And it's going to be so much fun to really hear about the chocolate program, how you make chocolate, what excited you? What brought you to this level of becoming a chocolatier? Like, you're a culinary wizard. You started and built the program for the Great Food Program at the Mondavi Winery for years. And you really drove that program. And you've just had so much experience. And now you're choosing to go into the extreme fine chocolate direction. Talk to us a little bit about your inspiration.
Okay. So, but even before food, it was wine for me. So growing up in a winemaking family, my dad is kind of a ninja in the winemaking field.
Look, we brought a bottle of his wine.
And we did. And so with that, I went into Davis and studied enology viticulture, which brought me over to France, where I fell in love with food and became a chef over there. So after studying wine, then I studied food and the culinary arts and worked in that for many years. And you're right, working with Bob Mondavi, he sent me all over the world doing, as a guest chef, doing wine and food programs, tastings, gala dinners, and nobody had done that back then. This is in the late 80s. So we were kind of breaking ground and it was very exciting. And with that came a wonderful experience of kind of being in charge in every kitchen, but being a guest in every kitchen. And I loved it. And one of the things that we would do is we would end with chocolate. Often we would end with chocolate. And a lot of times it really didn't work with the wine. And the more I started my own company doing events, custom events, galas, I noticed that people, no matter what, they always want a little box of chocolate to go, or they want something. So I had other chocolatiers making chocolate for me. And I was very specific about what I wanted, because one of the things I noticed is that it isn't the chocolate that doesn't go with wine, it's the sugar. And the sugar can be the problem with making a wine taste sour or bitter. And so that's kind of how it started.
Well, I think that you touched on a very important point. It's not just every chocolate dessert that will go with every wine.
Correct.
And I think that the thing is, you've really honed in on the flavors, the personalities of the wines. in order to complement them, we want our wines to show as well as they possibly can. You want your
Absolutely.
chocolates to show as well as they possibly can. So being able to do that in the right direction is really is very important, but it's also an art form. And I think you've created an art form that really makes it work.
Well, it's really fun, Cyril, because one of the things that pairing chocolate with wine, it really came out of a sort of a need. It was like that one thing that I couldn't quite get. And, there's always that elusive art or whatever it is. And chocolate and wine was it for me. And so when I started really looking at it and breaking it down, and as a chef first, I started working with ingredients, and I brought some I want to show you, Cyril, that are actually in the chocolates. And so I didn't come to make chocolates.
These are macadamia nuts?
I thought you might like.
Well, I love those.
Well, so anyway, I didn't use the usual ingredients that chocolatiers use. I started as like what a savory chef would use, and incorporated them into the chocolate, because I thought if I tilt it just a little bit, I might get some movement here. Because I thought really those are the bridge flavors to the wine, are these savory ingredients, right? Savory spices. And so one of the things. So can you
go through each one of those, explain which ones they are? Because
absolutely,
they're more visible to me than they are to others.
So this is star anise, and we actually have a chocolate made with star anise today. This is cinnamon. This is cardamom. And then these, I don't know if you can get a tight on those. Those are crushed up cocoa beans, which is known as cocoa nibs, right? And so what cocoa nibs are these crushed up cocoa beans. And what I'd like you to notice is the pink hue in those, because we're going to go back to that a little bit later. This is cardamom.
Now, can you eat one of these things? And what does that
Absolutely.
taste like?
Well, you tell.
They're pretty crunchy.
They're crunchy. They're toasty. Do you get a little bit of a chocolate flavor?
I do. I get a little chocolate flavor. Yes. That's really.
Some bitterness, maybe. There's tannin in it.
I do get a kind of a very big tannin structure in the back when I chew down on it.
Yeah.
So that is pretty harsh. That's
very harsh.
That's not something that I would say was a really nice flavor. It's really a challenging flavor. So that's got to be an issue with our wines. I mean, if I have that flavor with the wines, I'm going to really need that wine to be a palate cleanser to get rid of that, because that's pretty harsh.
The cocoa nibs are, and in fact, one of the things, because all of the chocolates that you guys are going to have today are made for specifically custom Chappellet Viognier wines. So these are for these specific wines. We made these chocolates for these specific wines. So I didn't put any cocoa nibs in there. And one of the things with cocoa nibs, nothing against them, they're fabulous, but when chocolate first came to be, this is what people were eating in all of the kind of the belt very close to the equator. That's where cocoa grows. And so, what people used to do in those countries is that this is their chocolate. This was their chocolate, and they would mix it in water, whatever. And it wasn't until this Swiss guy came along and said exactly what you said. They're kind of bitter, and, they're kind of harsh, and there's something good in there, but I don't know. And you know what the Swiss do? They add a little cream and sugar and milk to everything and kind of make it
they have those
lovely,
great, big, wonderful cows that go up in the mountains, and their milk is so rich. That's right.
They need a job.
They've got to do something with this.
They can't just carry those bells around. So anyway, so the Swiss then made the big innovation of making milk chocolate and conching the chocolate and making it pleasant so that you could eat it as a emulsified, beautiful texture, right? So it was no longer just these nibs. It's now something like this or something like this, right? And so that was a big breakthrough, adding sugar and milk or cream. So then back to this is curry. Which surprisingly is quite lovely with your Viognier. Curry is quite shockingly good also with Chardonnay.
That's this one
And
right there.
that one right there, the yellow one.
Yep. Okay.
And then here we have nutmeg, and nutmeg is another aromat that I like actually with, I love it with the Pinot Noir as well, because it brings out a floral characteristic that's really very pretty as an accent flavor. And then black pepper. And this is this is actually a Mexican pepper, which is a little bit more subtle than some of the other countries that are growing black pepper. So I had to go through a number of different countries, just like you do with vines and vineyards, growing regions, and how things are made. And then these are black sesame seeds and macadamia nuts. It's some other ingredients that I thought might be fun for you guys to see. This is one of the chocolates that we're going to have today for the Viognier is made out of kaffir lime leaves. And so in my garden, I have a chef's garden of all organic ingredients, much like your mom. Molly has beautiful ingredients growing in her garden, flowers and a cutting garden. And I do that as well, because there's some things that I just can't buy, and I like to use them a lot in various foods. So kaffir lime leaves, and if you crush that up, Cyril, and smell that,
Can I tear this off?
Yeah, you can tear that off. You can smell the difference. It's not just any lime leaf.
No, this is really.
How would you describe that?
Well, it definitely smells more like the lime peel in the outside of a lime when you squeeze a lime, because it's so much more intense. And I think that.
And there's a floral, right?
Very floral. Yes.
Very floral. This is what the little fruit looks like, the kaffir lime. It's kind of like a golf ball.
Is there anything inside there? Or is
we
it just...
can cut it open. Yes, there is. Yeah, we can cut that open with that giant knife.
Should we use the right size knife for that?
Yeah, okay. I think we should.
By the way, do you know what this knife is actually from? This one?
No.
This knife is a knife that I got in Spain and Barcelona. And this is what all of the ladies cut up the fish with. Now,
Wow.
Starting out this size, this is a fairly new one. It has not been shaved down. The shape will change dramatically over the years as they sharpen it and sharpen it.
Beautiful.
So only the ladies use these knives. These are the ladies' knives. The men
so
use
don't you mind?
You betcha. They're nice and sharp. It's all good, ready to go.
Okay.
So this is the kaffir lime.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this.
But the aroma is really
but
different from most limes that we know.
Lots of seeds
and it's super bitter. So I wouldn't mess up with your palate. Super bit, but the bitterness is higher on that. But the leaf is different. So when I use kaffir lime, I never use the fruit. It's too bitter for wine. It's too bitter for most foods. But the leaves are quite lovely. They're just beautiful. So anyway, that is in our first chocolate. So we will get to that. But I just wanted to bring a few of these base ingredients, because that's what goes into the chocolate. So basically, it's cooking, but for chocolate.
Okay, so knowing that you were coming, we had to have some fun with what wines should we choose to put together with this offering. And many of our guests out there have all 3 or 4 of these wines either in their cellars or they have them, they're opening right now. So the wines that we talked about was, first of all, the Viognier. And the Viognier was the white wine that we tried. And then the rest were all red wines. So we chose all to use red wines. Yeah. We chose to use Pinot Noir and also our Signature Cabernet. The Pinot Noir was our Apple Lane Pinot Noir. And just because it was fun, I asked you for a very special favor. And it's because Blakesley and I were at a restaurant not too long ago, and we saw a bottle of your father's Pinot Noir on the menu. And it was like, I've got to order that. And we did. And we were out of town and we saw this and it was like, that is remarkable. And what the greatest thing is when we can share our friends' wines. And your father is one of the most iconic winemakers in the world, and truly in the world. He is the person who Andre Chappellet really handed the gavel to support him afterwards, and actually worked with Andre for years and years. And I think you call him Uncle Andre.
I did when he was
here. Yep.
And so now he's Angel Uncle Andre.
Yeah, he's on his way to a totally different flight now. But we have several different wines. And the last is our Signature Cabernet that we made available for this tasting. The idea is we needed to have wines that would complement your chocolates and vice versa. And you very specifically put together chocolates with flavors that would complement the wines. And I asked you when we were talking about this, if you could explain to people, where does chocolate come from? And my understanding is it mostly comes from the equator areas and the areas where it's very warm. I have seen the cacao pod, I guess it is. And I've had one in my hand. They're pretty big. They're big, long things.
They're very weird looking.
They're very strange looking. And I think that hopefully everybody can see that right now. That's kind of what it looks like. That might be 9 or 10 inches long. This can be pretty long, pretty big thing. And
it's almost like a papaya.
Do you want to explain a little bit about what happens from this process to get to this process? Sure. I mean, I know it's a long process, and you're going to have to not do your whole scholarly thing.
I'll whip through it because we have important wines to taste and some good chocolate to eat, and we need to get to this. So that's right. So, but anyway, so cacao, it looks a lot like papaya growing on a tree. If you've ever seen papaya, it's so weird. There's a stem, and then out of the middle, it's like almost like something growing out of the side. There's a papaya. And the same thing is true with cacao. So they grow in these pods. They're all different sizes. They vary from small to large, and they vary in color from yellow to orange to red to rust to brown, all different colors. But the important thing, besides what it shares with viticulture, the soil, the sun exposure, how it's grown, right? That's the most important thing to give it the flavor. But also when you pop it open, and you guys can see this online, there's a million pictures of, if you want to see what's inside the pod, ours got lost in the mail somewhere. But anyway, it's white. It's a white, fleshy meat that's inside, and it's wrapped around the cocoa bean, which
I've
looks.
Got to stop you for a second. We're having a question.
Okay.
What wine should they be enjoying right this minute, right this second, at their home, while we're yammering away, explaining the world of chocolate? Which wine should they be enjoying?
I think they should take a sip of all three to prepare yourself for what's coming next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to taste them separately, not maybe all three at the same time.
No.
But
start with Viognier, then go to Pinot, then go to Cab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. See how you're so easy going about this. You just make it all work. Okay. All right.
It's going to work.
Okay. So
to get to know these wines. Yeah.
Julia Lynn says hi to mom. Whose mom is that? Is that our mom? Or is that Holly's mom?
Maybe it's Molly.
Okay. Maybe it's mom.
To Molly.
To mom. Okay. I guarantee that my mother is home doing exactly the same thing because she has a little treat of these chocolates at home. And I think Carissa is with her watching this. So I doubt there's any more chocolate at their house if they're together. The wine will come second.
This is beautiful.
Love chocolate.
Beautiful.
So talk to us a little about the Pinot Noir. I hate to put you on the spot again, but.
So one of the things when I worked in Burgundy, one of the things that I loved about good Pinot over there, they would always talk about violets. And I thought, violets, we never talk about violets, but there's a floral element that this wine has that has a little bit of violet to it. It also has a gorgeous cherry element, but not super ripe, not like a Bing cherry, but almost like a tart dried cherry. I like
it's kind of yummy to me.
The body. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous Pinot Noir, very balanced.
Well, I did do a treat because the next Pinot Noir you're going to have to evaluate a little bit. I'm sorry to say is your dad's.
Oh,
and it's so remarkable. And they're very different in flavor and very different in taste. And so that is in
Santa Lucia Highlands.
Santa Lucia Highlands, and
Monterey.
One of the remarkable areas for growing Pinot Noir in California. That basically a group of people who grew broccoli, cauliflower, and lettuce there decided in their hillside area where they weren't using it so much except for Catalan, they would put a little bit of Pinot Noir and grow some grapes down there, which has turned out to be a remarkable spot to grow.
It's true.
Pinot Noir.
It's true. It's true.
This is very, very cool. And he's made a beautiful wine out of this. And It's terrific, and I'm delighted you brought it. For all those
I
people
love
out
how
there,
different they are.
they're totally different.
They're
wines.
totally different.
Yeah.
And, the region has so much to do with, it. And it's really fun to try them side by side. And the chocolates that we made for your Pinot Noir, one of them is made with Kirsch. And so, Kirsch is made with cherries that's vinified into or distilled into an alcohol, right? And so I loved the cherry element of yours, which I thought was super pretty. And then, Blakesley was also with us when we were doing the tasting to
Is
try
that
to
a
figure
heart?
out. It's a heart. It's a Valentine. And this is what everybody has. They have the flavors of what's coming. The other one we have is the raspberry strawberry that we thought would be really interesting. Turned out we tasted maybe 30 chocolates with these three wines, 30 ganaches. And I made a few ganaches that I had never made before just for these wines. And a lot of them made it on our sheet. But anyway, so we were thinking the strawberry was another flavor that was kind of beautiful. And then the subtleness of the black pepper. So why we brought that one. Yeah.
So which one of those, can we tell which is the one that has the strawberry flavor in it to know which one of those? Because all of them look very different.
Well, we do. And we each have a little box. We each have a little box of chocolates that correspond to the heart. Now, before we do that, we can do this first with the wine and do the base chocolate tasting at the end,
okay,
which might be fun because we're already kind of going into wine and chocolate, and then we can taste the base chocolates at the end. Does that sound like a good plan? Yeah.
Is it Santa Rita Hills Pinot appellation you prefer? Well,
is that what we're referring to? Actually, it's Santa Lucia.
It's Santa Lucia, not Santa Rita.
Yeah, Santa Lucia Highlands in Monterey.
Yeah,
Yes.
so they're two totally different areas.
Yeah.
In Santa Lucia, Santa Rita is south.
Here, I open this for you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
You do that so well. I was going to bring
I-
out a tool to do that.
Well, would you like to use a knife?
Well-
An extra large knife?
How about this one?
Okay. I'm getting my fingers out of the way.
Okay. This is nice thing about this one is it'll cut through anything.
It cuts through it cuts through the plastic.
This is Dominic's Christmas present, by the way, that we're
You
using.
can do this side too.
Okay. So this is Dominic's Christmas present.
Okay.
And my understanding is this works perfectly for cutting chocolate too. So when we're looking to cut a little piece of chocolate off here, we can actually cut that with a big knife because it's fun to use big knives. So
All right. So with the so if you're ready to dive in, we need to have the Viognier first.
All right. So now we're back to the
We're
Viognier.
going back to Viognier.
Okay.
We're going to go back to the Viognier. And then like on your heart, we have a tangerine, a little tangerine heart. I don't know if you guys can see that. You have them on your chart in front of you. The two kind of gold color ones.
On the left-hand side
Mhm.
in my.
So we have kind of a gold heart and a yellow grape.
So who puts all these things together and puts all these little labels on here and does all this?
I have lots and lots of little chocolate helpers.
The little minions?
Yes.
Okay.
Chocolate minions.
All right.
Yes.
You know
And
what?
there are some people.
It's melting in my hand, not in my mouth.
It's because there are no preservatives. There's no, so,
Now it's melting in my mouth.
well, okay. So now you're starting with that for the rest of you guys.
Oh, this is lovely.
I'm so glad.
This is right.
I would like, but wait, first, cheers. Can I coach him a little bit?
Coach him. Go
Okay,
for
I'd
it.
like to coach you guys a little bit. So what I'd like you to do is taste the wine, swallow the wine. Think about the wine, its beauty. And then I'd like you to go to the heart and have a little nibble of the heart, taste the heart, let it melt on your palate like what Cyril did. Swallow the heart, think about how beautiful it is, then go back to the wine. And it's key, which is different with savory wine and food, where even with cheese, you have a little bit of cheese still in your mouth and you sip it with the wine. With chocolate and wine, I find it's not as positive. And it's better to let the flavors kind of waft back and forth rather than have everything in your mouth at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and have a sip of the Viognier. Love. And now I'm going to have a bite of the heart, which is fresh tangerine.
The tangerine is so flavorful. And so
It's off my trees. Fresh tangerine. Tangerine zest.
you use the zest.
Mhm.
So you're not using the juice from the
No,
tangerine to cook it
I don't
down.
want the acid. In chocolate,
Have
you
you
have
tried
to
using
be.
a Satsuma mandarin?
Mhm, I
Is that,
have.
is that similar, or is the tangerine as a better?
The zest is the key.
Okay, cool.
Zest is king here. So I love that. Now I'm going to go back to the wine. There's plenty of time. And I think it's really beautiful together. This was one of the wines that surprised me the most and was probably the most difficult, where people think, you can't really put chocolate with white wine. That's really a challenge. But I don't think it is. I think that we get some of them, even the most interesting combinations with white wine.
This is
and
the heart chocolate for somebody who was asking which is the
Yeah.
heart chocolate. It's this one here that has a little
It's
bit
the
of gold on
golden,
it.
it's the golden
It
heart.
has a little bit of gold. It's Holly sprays it with
I hand
18
paint
karat.
them.
She paints it with 18 karat gold. And so just know that it's going in through your system and you're going to enjoy that for years. You're
Going
going
to
to be,
enrich your life.
the nice thing about that,
Yeah.
some things haven't changed. Holly and I have known each other for most of our lives. And so this is kind of fun. And not that we're going back to high school, but it is kind of fun to be able to do these things. So,
All right. You ready for the grape, the golden grape?
yes.
So now the golden grape for the golden wine, and just do the same
Is this
thing.
with the white wine?
Yep. It sure is the Viognier.
Okay.
So have a sip of the Viognier,
Yes, ma'am.
swallow it, think about its beauty.
Mm.
Right. Gorgeous
Lovely.
wine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now go ahead and have a bite of the chocolate.
Okay. White and creamy inside.
Mhm.
Star anise.
Star anise.
You just
Yes.
soak down the star anise to do
I
this?
infuse the cream and chocolate with star anise.
Oh,
Right. That's what
how
it
do you
is.
get the chocolate to go back into this big cavity back, or the ganache or the material inside? How do you get that to go inside the chocolate and fill in that big void?
Highly trained culinary professional.
You can't tell me the secret. Is there a syringe or something you do?
I pipe it. And you have to pipe it, it has to be the right temperature. It has to be the right consistency. Like anything that you do.
So you use
in-
one of those
in the
things to
kitchen.
squeeze down in each
I
one of those things?
Hand piped. Yes. Yes. And now I'm going back
This is
to
a
the
lot
wine.
of work to make this.
So I really think the star anise plays interesting. It's true. A lot of people think that that wine doesn't go well with chocolate, and I was one of them. I mean, I was absolutely one of them. But for me, what helps it go together, like curry, is quite beautiful. Chocolate with curry, and actually, I made some custom chocolates for you guys for Chappellet, the little pyramids.
Yes.
And we
that's
have
right.
curry and orange zest in that one.
Yep.
And that is for your Viognier, or but it's delicious with Chardonnay. And so, we could use these aromats that are good with, so for Chardonnay, curry is kind of king for me. But I do think citrus, if you're using citrus, I would make sure that it matches with the Chardonnay. So if the Chardonnay is really buttery, I would like to accent maybe some of those flavors. So you could use pear, you could use cardamom. There are lots of different flavors that I would put with, for Chardonnay, or another interesting aromat like nutmeg, I think might be interesting in a ganache. Now, you notice all of these chocolates have dark chocolate shell. And I think that's important because a lot of people who like fine chocolate, they like the dark chocolate, right? So all of my chocolates, everything at Flourish has a dark chocolate shell. And to me, that helps bring out some of these elegant other flavors in the ganache. Even if I have white chocolate or milk chocolate, any other color chocolate inside the shell, it's the dark chocolate that I think pulls it through. And we can make that work with this wine because it's a 70% dark chocolate, It's undergone a long fermentation. So just like wine that's undergone long fermentation, it has, diminished the bitter flavors and the acids and brings out all the beautiful body like you did with your Pinot Noir. That clearly has, had very careful fermentation to get the gorgeous, look at the pretty color of that wine and the balance in the body. There are no harsh flavors in there whatsoever. Just the pure fruit comes popping out. And I think that's key in how the wine was actually vinified, right? I got to switch over to
now we're
your
moving
Pinot.
to our grower collection, Apple Lane Pinot Noir. And this is our 21. This is a wine that has just been finished and is absolutely brand new to the market. I think it's one of the best expressions of this wine we've done in years. Really a beautiful, luscious, complex Pinot Noir with a lot of little hidden gems in the flavor of this wine. This is, as we know, the Russian River is very cool in that region, and it's very similar in a lot of ways to the San Lucia Highlands.
Mm-hmm.
It has that cool influence of the ocean that is very close and affects them both similarly. But it was interesting to try the difference between the two of them because they are different. And and it really speaks to the terroir and speaks to the difference of these two wines. I believe that we have a little bit of a bone to pick because I believe my wife has become quite addicted to chocolate, but not just any chocolate, but your chocolate.
I love that about her. I love that.
She always tells me she's running off to go see Holly. And next thing I know, she's coming back several hours later, high as a kite on chocolate. So
we have so much fun.
How does this work?
Well, we just have so much fun. When I think about Chappellet and the quality of the winery and the whole property and everything that you guys have done, I think this is from a chef's perspective. If you have a cake, say a wedding cake without any frosting, it's just cake. And there are a lot of wineries out there that are like that. I'm talking about your wife.
Okay.
And Molly actually as well. A lot of your family members are able to do this. It's how you frost the cake. It can be elegant, it can be simple, it can be elaborate, but the frosting makes it. And what Blakesley brings to the table and your mom is that flair. It's the little eye for detail. It's this, it's that, it's the other thing. And so the
they're
tasting,
kind of the frosting on the cake.
They're the frosting on the cake.
Okay, just want to make sure I got that right.
Frosting on the cake. That's the point. Okay, so Pinot, back to Pinot, and the chocolates for the Pinot. So now we have.
Now this is kind of more of a purple color.
It's a purple.
Wine.
It's kind of a light purple heart. It's actually called orchid. And but we're calling it pewter heart, and that is kirsch. And then we have the pink grape, and that is the raspberry strawberry. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing with the Pinot Noir, where we're going to have a sip of the Pinot, enjoy its beauty, sip it, swallow, and then we're going to have a nibble of either one. Oh yeah, they really do melt. This is when you don't add preservatives. See, this would never last in a grocery store or like what a lot of bar chocolate. Will you hand me one of your wonderful napkins, please? Thank you.
We FedExed all these to everybody in a good time of the year to send them while it was nice and cool. But we tried to make sure they got there to you safely. So my hope is that all of them look as gorgeous as they do for us, and they haven't broken down at all, because temperature does make a difference on these, as it does with wine. We want to make sure we protect them. So whatever we're doing to protect the wines is actually works very well for the chocolate too.
Perfect. 55 degrees is perfect. So the heart has kirsch. So kirsch, one of the things that when I was working in a 3-star restaurant in Germany, Tantris in Munich, I was in the pastry department there, and we used white chocolate with kirsch for many desserts. And I loved the combination. I'd never had it before. One of the things I loved so much, I kept it and I put it into our line, a kirsch white chocolate ganache inside of one of our chocolates. And when we tasted it with this Pinot Noir, that subtlety of the cherry, we thought really pulled through. Kind of great.
That works. That's really nice.
Isn't it interesting? Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't think, when you look inside, It's actually, a white chocolate ganache there, a white chocolate ganache that is laced with kirsch.
Holly, one of the things that happens when we do these webinars, we end up getting an awful lot of communication from our friends out there who are wanting to know what we're doing and how that's going along. So I welcome anybody who has questions. My team will hopefully get them to us. And so if there's a question that you're having or you want to kind of communicate with us, go ahead and please put it in the chat. Let us know, and we will try to address them as quickly as we can. But our objective is to speak directly to you. Star Anise from Viognier was so good.
Yay!
Thank you, Kathleen. Appreciate that. I had to squint very hard with my eyes to be able to see that down there on one of the screens. But we just want to make sure that that your questions are being answered. This is really for all of you. My hope would be, and I would really prefer if we could take all 127 of you and have you in our living room right here. That would be actually the best. We might have to go out on the deck because it might fill in the house a little more than we expected. But please put your messages in there. Let us know if you have questions. We'll try to address as many of those as we can. So
I see one question coming through about the Apple Lane Pinot Noir.
Yeah, what was that?
How we chose the ganaches.
Oh,
and
you're the one who chose the ganaches.
With the team, with our tasting team, and so because of the strawberry characteristic in that and the cherry, so we have the kirsch. I hope you guys try that one, and then go ahead and try the purple grape, which is the strawberry it's strawberry raspberry. We didn't put black pepper in that one. We did strawberry raspberry. And so these are fresh freeze-dried raspberries and fresh freeze-dried strawberries. So let's see how that is.
What's a fresh freeze-dried?
So the berries are picked absolutely perfect at their juiciest, ripest moment. Excuse me. And then they freeze-dry them. So they have all of their sweetness, full flavor.
Keep the camera on her.
So that's the raspberry strawberry for the Pinot Noir. So then swallow that. Go ahead and take your time tasting it.
Okay, here's a fresh raspberry. So do they take a raspberry just like this and then they freeze dry it? And
probably grown in the summer. Yes.
Okay.
Probably grown in the summer.
Let's taste this.
All right.
Taste raspberries. I mean, it does, but it doesn't have the intensity that some other times of the year does.
It's because it's a winter berry. So
well,
there's only so much flavor they can get in the winter. And they have high acidity, and I really don't want a lot of acidity in chocolate. So that's why I go ahead and use the freeze-dried.
Okay.
So basically, I'm getting the flavor, kind of like what I do with citrus. I'm getting the flavor from the zest, not from the juice. And I do the exact same thing with the strawberry and the raspberry for the ganache for this Pinot Noir.
You've talked about a lot of chocolate wine combinations. What are the chocolate combinations you would avoid?
What would I avoid?
The answer is absolutely yes. There are some things that you might avoid. So we're going to try to answer your question about what things and what combinations work and what combinations don't work.
Okay.
So I think the biggest thing is sugar. And, a lot of people get around that by going with dark chocolate because usually dark chocolate has less sugar. But if it's just solid dark chocolate, I don't find it very often very interesting with the wine. I want to have other ganaches to help bridge the flavor. So some of the aromats to bridge the flavor. And I think ultimately, the fun is really in experimenting and to have a wine and chocolate party and to bring in some different things that you would have that you might not normally do with a wine tasting. So a wine and chocolate party. So, one of the most surprising, unusual combinations that I came upon. I was making paella for a big event, and we were having port. And when we tasted the port, you know, it was so delicious together, but I had so much saffron in the paella that I thought, I'm going to remember this and try a saffron chocolate for port. And so I did. I made a saffron ganache and I had it with port. And I think that was the most surprising combination ever because it worked so
on the good side.
On the good side,
Okay.
because it was so incredibly delicious, total surprise. But again, it came from the kitchen. It came from the savory side, and it sort of tippy-toed over to the chocolate and then into the dessert side, which is fun.
There seems to be such a movement towards bourbons and scotches and brown liqueurs that are right now very, very hot, and they're really driving a lot of the industry. People after dinner maybe have a cognac or a scotch or something else. Is there a particular chocolate flavor that goes well with those? Somebody just asked that in the question, and I just wanted to see if there's a way to answer the question.
I started using bourbon in chocolate. And so I make little wine barrels that are filled with bourbon ganache. And
maybe you don't even have the bourbon, just get it right there.
Could do both. You know, it's not bad to have a little bourbon too. And then I did it with whiskey and with rum and with sambuca. And there are a lot of different things that you can do, but I just kind of incorporate it into the chocolate and I just don't add sugar and let the pairing kind of lend itself, you know, let the bourbon still stand out and have that be the accent, you know, have the chocolate be an accent. You know what, Cyril, I don't have any Cabernet. I have an empty glass here.
That must have been the sommelier, which is me screwing this up. So I apologize about that. So I did pour some into my glass. I did check the bottle first.
Thank you.
To make sure that it's fine.
Thank you.
Will
you tell me a little bit about this?
So this is our 2019 Signature Cabernet. I think there is a better way to see that depending on where the camera is. And can you see that? Is that good? So it's the 2019 Signature Cabernet. It's noted by Dad's signature from that we have been using on Signature Cabernet since 1980. This is a wine that is probably the most important wine for us every year. Our objective of this wine is to make this wine flavorful, rich, complex, and a wine that somebody wants to go back for another glass. And it's been a remarkable wine for us for the general public and the overall market, and the restaurants have done very well with this wine. Really what it comes to is that the essence of this wine is from Pritchard Hill and from our vineyards. And there's where it really starts. But due to the success of this wine, we've actually had to go to find remarkable vineyards around us to be able to supply us with enough juice or enough grapes to be able to make this wine every year. And Philip and our winemaking team have really searched and kind of found the best of the best, everything in the hillsides that are around us to be able to continue making this wine. The complexity, the richness, the intensity of this wine with a balanced structure of tannins, which is, I think, really what the beautiful part of this is. And I think that this wine, to me, is the wine that I would have expected might work better with chocolate than some of the Pinot Noir and some of the other things. But I think we've already seen an example of the Pinot Noirs. The way you put your chocolates together and ganaches you put together with them have really made the wines taste beautiful still and really work in that way. So I think that's, Christina, we will answer your question. I will put it right over to Holly. Let Holly answer your question about talking about the fermentation process in chocolate. She started working her way through from that pod you saw, and I did cut her off. I apologize. Once again, I get excited about this stuff and I get moving on. So if you could talk to a little bit about the process.
I'll talk about it. While you guys, I have a job for them too, is to taste this gorgeous Cabernet Notice the beautiful integrated tannin structure. Swallow, let it rest, and then try both the Silver Heart, which is the Earl Grey tea. And so that's a total custom flavor. I've never made that one before. And then Black Cassis. That is very interesting with this wine as well. So take a nibble, you taste exactly the same way, taste the wine, swallow, wait, taste the chocolate, swallow, wait, and then go back to the wine and then do it again with the other chocolate. So while you guys are doing that, tell you about the fermentation process, which is super important. Before I got into the chocolate industry, I had no idea that chocolate ever went through fermentation, and it does. And it is so aligned and parallel with grapes and my foundation that I was just in love with it. And so the fermentation brings out either the tannin or it diminishes the tannin, the acidity. It's a very important process, how the cacao is fermented, and it's fermented with all the sugar in that white pulp, and the bean, the cocoa bean is in the center. Okay. And a cocoa bean, you can also Google that. It looks an awful lot like a coffee bean. They're very closely related. And so it undergoes this fermentation, and most of them are kind of hot and fast. They're right on the equator, hot and fast. Those are usually the chocolates I'm not that fond of. But what I found is when they are very careful and very clean about their fermentation, very long and slow and extended fermentation, it just diminishes, just like grapes, it diminishes all of the sour, bitter, acrid flavors, and you come up with something that has multiple layers of chocolate lusciousness, for lack of another word. So I really love that. So an extended fermentation. So you can find those chocolates, but they're not easy to find. I import one of them, and every time I order it, they tell me, I think you're the only chef that brings these in, but it's okay because I love it, and that's our signature chocolate on everything, on the shells, all of our shells. Yes, so that is the fermentation, and the other thing that's really important with chocolate is cleanliness, and what we were talking about earlier, anything about whatever in the industry can get into chocolate, but, there are no like metals in chocolate, but if the environment isn't clean, that's where something can come in. And so it's very important that it's clean. The other thing that I think is really important, that it's fair trade. So just like taking really good care of your guys in the vineyard, your gals in the vineyard itself, it's really important to take care of the people who actually grow the cocoa. So that was number one for me as well, is that it's fair trade, organic, as clean as possible. Just like a clean kitchen, you walk into a dirty kitchen, you walk into a dirty wine cellar and you think, I don't think so, I'm going to go somewhere else. And that's how I felt about chocolate producers as well. So anyway, did you guys have a chance to taste? Did you have a chance to taste that together?
The intensity of the very last one,
the cassis.
The cassis is so substantial.
It's just cassis puree. So this is fresh cassis puree.
It really makes it sing. It's really, really beautiful. So we have to answer my father-in-law's question.
Excellent.
Okay. He says, where you cover the numbers 1 through 6.
Okay.
In the
little envelopes. Let's go ahead and do that. So, okay. This tasting is going to be, I think, kind of fun. For us, I'm going to move some of our
props.
Yeah. We're done with those. So what we have, packet number 1, should we do this together? Do we have time to do it together? Do I just need to tell them what they are?
Just keep going, working on that.
All right.
And as you're doing that, one of the questions was, how long does fermentation process take? And is there one that you prefer, more than another? And she said, and Christina Skinner says that she is a complete nerd. Well, Christina, if it wasn't for nerds, we probably wouldn't have all of our computers and everything else that we have, and all the things that make us a little bit nerdy. So thank you very much for asking the question. We appreciate it. So how long does the process take?
It can take just like wine. It just goes fast and furious. It can just take a few days, or
Okay.
it can take a few weeks, or it can take more than a month or two.
Really?
It can be a long, slow, extended fermentation. So it varies. It really varies. It's so similar to the wine industry. We might need your giant knife to open that again.
You know what?
You have a
The
small
nice
knife?
thing is, farm boy always carries the knife.
I love that.
So
Okay, so chocolate number one. So I'd like you guys to taste each one of these chocolates. Chocolate number one has the highest amount of sugar. And so just take a small amount of that chocolate.
So did they get these broken down?
Yeah, they got these. Okay, wait, so don't go more than three because I'll
Yes, you
mix
can't
them
count
up.
that
No,
far.
I can't count that far.
Okay.
So go ahead and
Yes.
taste that one.
Okay. So I'm tasting number one, which
Taste
is
number
little
one.
chunks,
Little chunks. So I have
quite sweet.
super sweet, very expensive white chocolate. This is Cocoa Berry, which is a French company, and it is their white 587. And this is something that, has a lot of cocoa butter, probably more sugar than cocoa butter. So sugar, cocoa butter, a little bit of lecithin. Lecithin does not come from soy. It comes from sunflowers. And what else we have in there? Vanilla. So very, very flavored, right?
While we have everybody completely enamored with who you are and what you're doing, you're going to have to make sure before we get off here that you share your business website and how to contact you directly, because there are people who are clamoring
Good.
to get more of everything that we're talking about. And so I think that that's going to be very important. So we can't forget to do that.
Okay, well, flourishchocolate.com, you're good to go. Number two, thank you, by the way. So number two is an American company, Guitar. And I'm sure you guys have seen Guitar chocolate, and this is their white. They call this one Mystic White. Has lower sugar, higher cocoa butter. It's a beautiful chocolate.
But this tastes like other flavors, not just chocolate. I mean, almost tastes like a little citrusiness.
But it's not.
Not at all? Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. It's just really more cocoa butter, less sugar, a little bit less vanilla. This one has more vanilla, more sugar. The first one, the cocoa berry. Chocolate number three is a milk chocolate. So chocolate, now that we get into milk solid or cocoa solids, now we start getting the percentages. So what do their percentages mean anyway? That is just the percent of cacao. Okay. So some people say white chocolate isn't real chocolate because there's no actual cocoa solids. It's cocoa butter, it's milk or cream, sugar, soy lecithin, and can be vanilla. So now we're getting into, did you have the milk?
No,
Now you can have milk.
I was trying to help out.
Okay. Oh, I appreciate that so much. So that is now Caibo, or in English, we Calibo. It is a Belgian company, and this is 823. And so this is a milk chocolate that is about 34% of cocoa solids. Okay.
I would really like everybody to weigh in as to what pairing people like the very best.
Oh, that would be
And
really interesting.
if there's a particular chocolate of all the chocolates you've had, and even the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yep.
Also, is there something that people really enjoyed one over another? So
That'd be really interesting.
that if we can do it, can we send up a questionnaire, Erica, to set up a question for them to do it? If we can, that's great. If we can't, then that's where it goes. Okay. So
All right.
So send up a question to them. Let's see what they say. We're quite fascinated because we want to see what people like.
All right. So you had the milk. So the milk, percentages, milk ranges, there's a good 10% of 30 to 40% is pretty much milk chocolate. And the rest is depending on the quality of the chocolate and how long it has to last, and if it cannot melt, they don't want it to melt, then they can put stabilizers. So, there are all kinds of, just like there's all kinds of varieties of wine and prices of wine, even as the same varietal, the same is true with chocolate. So the purer the chocolate, the cleaner the chocolate, the more the price goes up, of course.
So are we going from less expensive to more expensive?
Well, I have a whole mix. So number 3 is the Belgian milk chocolate.
Yep.
So that is also a pricey chocolate. And now we're going to go to Ghirardelli, which is also an American company. So
is that the one that used to be in San Francisco? They used to have
yes,
the great big Sundays and things when we were kids.
We had the big, what was that thing called that you would have like 10 kids eating one sundae?
It was like this boat with all this stuff on it, and we had chocolate on that. That was really cool when we were kids.
That's right. The tower.
That used to be a very special thing that our parents used to take us to.
Okay, so this is what they call, this one right here, number 4, is it's actually dark milk, but in America, we have a terrible term for dark milk chocolate, and that is semi-sweet. And I don't know why we do that, but I think dark milk is better because there's more cacao in it. It has a higher level of cacao, and the sugar is up to the producer. Okay, so semi-sweet gives you the idea that there's more sugar, but actually that's not true. There's more cacao. It doesn't necessarily have to be sweeter. I actually find the milk chocolate much sweeter than the semi-sweet, right?
Yes.
Right? Much sweeter, much sweeter. So now let's go to the dark chocolate. And I brought these little Calettes. This one is different, but the little tiny Calettes, that one is a very unusual dark chocolate. This is cocoa berry, going back to the French company now. And these are African beans, cocoa berry. And this is their dark 811 is what they call it. But I brought this chocolate for everyone because most of you guys have had 70% cacao, 65%. But I bet not many of you have had a dark chocolate with this percentage cacao. And so without telling you, I want to see if you guys can guess what percentage of cacao you think this has. So before I tell you that. So that's going to be a question out there to see if you can guess that. So this is kind of a beautiful, elegant chocolate, definitely a chocolate that I like for ganaches. It's a very good blending chocolate. I find that some of the bitterness and structure is there, but it's not so overpowering.
So when you order your chocolate, is this the way you get it? Looking like this?
Well, in a larger quantities.
So is this the form you get? These little
yes,
like this?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
look what we have here.
All right.
51% of the people liked the Cabernet pairing the best.
Okay.
20% liked the Pinot Noir the best, and 29% the Viognier, which is quite interesting that so many people like the Viognier. I expected the Cabernet to be pretty high, but that's interesting. I would have thought the Pinot Noir and the Viognier would have been inverted there.
It's fun.
So
definitely fun. I have one last chocolate.
Go for it.
Okay, the pink one. What is that? There's absolutely no food coloring in this. This is a natural chocolate that when it ferments, it becomes pink. And at the beginning, when I was saying, I want you to notice the color of the nibs, and then you saw the pod that is also pink. Pink is a normal color in chocolate. And so they have made this chocolate. It's called ruby chocolate. And this is made by Callebaut. It's a Belgian company, and they call it their ruby chocolate, 33% cocoa solid. So it kind of is in the range of the milk chocolate.
There's somebody who showed up here wearing an amazing shirt, and I think that he needs to get some credit for it. You see this? He's been working all day long for this. And
he can feed you some chocolate then.
He doesn't have any hands, so he just gets
you get the whole thing. If you're going to work for chocolate.
So this is David Franke, and David Franke is our managing director, and he's the one who makes it all happen for Chappellet every day. And
now you know what the compensation needs to be.
Yeah. So now
chocolate.
The nice thing is that could you take that to Erica also, because without Erica you wouldn't have had that shirt. So this has been great fun, and I hope that everybody has really enjoyed this today. The chat was really active. There was lots of things happening there. we will try to get back to all of you. And if anybody did not get their questions completely answered, don't hesitate to reach out for us again. We'll be involved. We're happy to answer your questions. This is one of the most successful ones that we've ever done, and I'm thrilled that there's still this much interest to do these things. And so we're going to keep pushing on. You've got my email address directly in there back to you all. If Holly doesn't mind, we can give you hers also. You can ask
Thank
her,
you. Yes,
her,
please.
her directly also. And so, Eric, if you can put Holly's on there too, that'd be great. Just send it back to them so they can get that. But you're in my kitchen, and everybody who's filming this and helping us with this, Mario and your team, thank you very much. You guys are marvelous. Julia, thank you for cleaning up the kitchen and making that happen. David, thank you for being the inspiration for all this. Blakesley, thank you for staying in the other room and letting us do this.
And helping us with the tasting. She helped with all the flavors.
Yeah, so all the flavors and all the rest. So so this is great. Boomer and Hallie are outside wanting to come in and get their dinner. All of you on the East Coast, it's time to have dinner. Enjoy a bottle of Chappellet, or maybe finish up the bottles that you have already opened. Anything we can do to send you messages and stay in touch with you. Our next webinar will be on March 9th. We'll be sharing our newest releases and our club shipments. So we'll be sending you a bunch of wines, and we look forward to seeing you. Stay in touch with us. Ask us questions. We're here for you. And Mario, thank you very much for all that you all done here. And Holly,
Thank you.
without our friendship, we wouldn't be doing these things. This is
Thanks
great.
for having
So,
me.
absolutely.
Thank you. Don't forget to give your mom the bee kisses.
She gets bee kisses.
She gets bee kisses.
So I did say that what we would do is I would bring out a big knife, and this is a cool knife. This is one of Dominic's knives. This is his Christmas present, but this was a way to cut up the chocolate. And I don't know if this is legitimate way to cut the chocolate, because if you're cutting cheese, you don't want to cut the nose off of it. But I did kind of work my way through it. This is marvelous. Big knives are really important in our lives. This is another big knife that you can use. Whatever you need to do to have the right tools for the job is very important. And thank you all very much for hanging in here with us. Cheers to all of you.
Cheers.
And we're thrilled to be with you.
Cheers. Cheers.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It was fun.